Welcome, Coxie, and lovely to see you again.
And likewise, Parso. Yeah, great to be joining you.
And first of all, what's lockdown looking like over there in Australia? Are you in Melbourne at the moment or Tasmania?
Yeah, I'm in Melbourne. We've been on stage 3, which is virtual lockdown for probably a month to 6 weeks, and only yesterday went back to stage 2. So we're all hopeful that we're starting to come out the other side. So Melbourne's or Victoria's restrictions have been tougher than anywhere else in the country. But, you know, the country and the state have managed it pretty well. So, you know, we've been lucky. We've had no real severe outbreaks, and yeah, hopefully hopefully that remains the case and we can come out the other side. But it's been a tough couple of months.
And what's sport looking like? Is that starting to come back or not?
Yeah, well, there's none on at the moment. I spent a bit of time working in the AFL as well, and there's talk that that'll recommence probably in 3 or 4 weeks' time. Rugby league looks like kicking off in about a week or two. They'll be the first 2 back. They'll all be played in front of no crowds. There'll probably be no crowds, I don't think, at sport here, at least until the new year. So, funny old events. They played one round of the AFL before everything shut down, basically, and it was just, yeah, it's quite weird watching sport without fans. And I think gave everyone a true appreciation of how important fans are to sport. So it was, but yeah, I think everyone would be thankful to get a bit of something back on the telly.
Yeah, I think we need it, don't we? First of all, can you believe it's now over 20 years since you joined us at the first time we met you was obviously the pre-season tour to Cape Town. And that was over 20 years ago. What's your memories of that?
Oh, look, I can believe it because I can actually see a little photo of myself here on the screen, Pass, and yeah, my hair would suggest that you know, with the amount of salt that's now rinsed into my hair, I do believe it. But no, look, I just see it as one of the great sliding door moments, I suppose, of my life. It was something I didn't plan. It was really only a chance meeting with Dermot Reeve that sort of got me into the space, I suppose, and you know, was grateful at the time, and now forever grateful for the club for taking a punt, because I know I was an unknown Aussie at the time, and to take a punt and to give me the leadership as well was a massive honour. But yeah, 20 years, mate. It's time's flown, but undoubtedly, mate. You know, not just myself, but Helen and the kids and everyone. We took some great memories away from the county ground in England.
How much did you know about Somerset? Obviously, you met Derm, who was coach at the time, Dermot Reeve, who was, you know, a big influence on a lot of our careers. How much did you know about Somerset cricket before you joined us?
The obvious. You know, the obvious. I actually thought, when Somerset was first mentioned, I actually perceived it as a pretty successful county because I'd always pictured it, you know, with that classic era, late 70s, early 80s, and the legends that sort of strode around the place. So that was about my only memory. I knew nothing of Taunton. I sort of knew where it was geographically. But yeah, I had basically life in England and Somerset sold to me by Dermot, which, you know, he's a good salesman and he's not a bad talker. So I had no idea what to expect, but no, it quickly became just a wonderful second home for us.
So how do you think the modern day player would have coped with Cockroach City that we stayed in, the facilities that we went? It was a bit of a budget tour, wasn't it? It must have been your first impression of county cricket must have been a little bit sceptical with some of the facilities we had.
No, not really. I wasn't unaccustomed to that. Everything in Australia wasn't 5-star at that stage. So, and to be frank, mate, that stuff never bothered me. I actually feel really lucky, Pass. The longer I'm retired and the more I have to do with the current day cricketers, the more, I guess, lucky I feel that I honestly never ever played a game of cricket, which I didn't really look forward to. You know, where I was lucky enough to never ever turn up for a day of cricket, probably other than my last one, where I just didn't look forward to what the day had in store. And it was, you know, cricket to me was a great love. And that, you know, the opportunity to do it in England became for me ultimately, you know, my international cricket, I suppose, what international cricket didn't provide for me. So it was it was a new group, new bunch of fans, new bunch of teammates, and a new competition to try and impress and lead. And it actually probably brought the best out of me.
So I think, when you speak to a lot of ex-players, they do talk about the fans in Taunton and the big occasions with a packed ground at Taunton. We were lucky enough to play a number of quarterfinals and semi-finals over your term in Taunton. First year you were with us, 99. Surrey All-Star Surrey side came and played in a semi-final, which was probably the first one we'd had in a number of years. Yeah,
went home with their brown tails between their legs, pass from memory, which was obviously a great memory because, look, there are a few greater places than, I guess a full Lords was hard to beat, but the couple of times we experienced that, but certainly a full county ground was just a fabulous place to play. I think, I do say, mate, how lucky I could have probably landed in a couple of spots, but the fact that I landed at Somerset, for me, again, I feel really grateful because I think our fans were as good as any. They were a very loyal bunch. They're obviously a bit success-starved, but you wouldn't know it talking to them. They were just a very loyal, sincere, grateful bunch of fans who really loved the game. So I grew to love them. That was and mate, people don't quite understand, but playing first-class cricket in Australia, you play in front of virtually no fans, or very, very small numbers. So to have even a county crowd of 1,000, 1,500 people was fabulous because they were all pretty regular bunch who you got to know most of them over time, and you just knew that they loved the game. So it was a great experience.
So I know you said earlier that you can't really remember an awful lot about those games, but surely you've got a little bit of a memory of the Surrey semi-final with 100 to get us through to our first Lord's final for, I think it was 16, 17 years or something like that. So, that was a fantastic occasion for Somerset and you personally as well in your first year with us.
Yeah, it was. And I didn't quite, look, it was probably, to be honest, mate, about as well as I ever played, I think, that day. But what I didn't understand and didn't appreciate was the enormity of what the moment, I guess, meant to the county. And that's, you hear people talk about, we haven't been to Lords for 15 years and whatever it was, and they go, well, that's that's good. We'll get to go to Lords. But in the time leading up to the final, you got a real appreciation of what that meant to a lot of people. And, even though we didn't win the day, I think that, Southwest final in 99 was a pretty awesome, occasion. To have the ground chanting, it was great. I mean, it wasn't as good as the year after, 2001, but I think to go back to Lords, it was a wonderful honour. I mean, to actually lead the county back to Lords and for everyone to sort of have that experience, albeit didn't turn out the best, was a real highlight, certainly in my first year.
Yeah, I remember the stand-up if you're West Country, wasn't it? About 30,000 of them all stood up around each side of Lords with the Gloucester final in 99.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think hindsight's a wonderful thing, Parsons. I've got no doubt, we hit a Gloucester team at that stage who were, they were the one-day kings of England at that stage, and, they won probably 2 or 3 other trophies around the same time and probably 1 or 2 even before we played them at Lords. And I reckon we might have slightly underestimated their game style and how effective it was. And I still think on paper we had a better team, but they had a wonderful game plan, had been to the big stage, I reckon, only a few weeks earlier and won another trophy. So, that was maybe slightly underestimated by us, the fact that they'd been there and succeeded. But, again, a great experience, disappointing outcome, but fortunately we had a chance to redeem ourselves.
Yeah, so rolling forward 2 years to 2001, it's been a great cup run. Different players getting man of the match all the way along the way. Warwickshire in the semi-final in Taunton, another huge turnaround when, I know cricketers are superstitious, but you didn't watch much of that partnership that Dutchie and Rob Turner got us home.
No, I watched very little.
From the balcony, did you?
No, I didn't. And one thing, as much as I've loved the game, I've loved participating in the game. I've never been a great watcher of the game. It's just sort of the way I've always been. I've always needed to know what's going on in a game, but I've never needed to actually sit and absorb the whole contest if I'm not playing it. But So that's not inconsistent, mate, with the way I actually spent most of my career. It was very rare for me to spend a whole day sitting on the balcony watching a game if I wasn't involved. It just, but mate, that was, we had some wonderful semi and quarterfinal moments at Taunton. That was probably about as good as any, quite frankly, as far as a run chase that got us over the line. In a game, I reckon we were dead for a fair amount of that game until that, quite extraordinary partnership. I must admit, Parsons, I get 2001, 2002 a little bit mixed up in my memories because I remember 2002, similar, the path to the final. I reckon you might have figured pretty prominently. There was a couple of extraordinary games just to get us to Lords again in 2002. But
well, there was the semi-final again was the Kent game when we got 300 and lots, and we're all out of the game with 2 overs to go. And then a flurry of wickets, Jono climbing over the fence to go and get cramp, and Simon Francis coming on, diving stop at mid-off and running out somebody. It was an incredible finish. Yeah,
it was a Franco, wasn't it? Simon Francis, who was, 12th man, I reckon, for the game. Dived full stretch, threw someone out. I reckon Bully bowled, Matty Bulbeck bowled a really good second last over, and I reckon who bowled the last over? We had to throw the ball to someone we didn't really want to in the last over. I can't remember who it was.
I don't remember. I remember Dutchy took the catch, I think, didn't he? And then the crowd just came on the field.
Oh, I was trying to lead you in there, Pass. I had a bad feeling it was you, but it might have been Burnsy or someone like that.
Been me, mate. You wouldn't have thrown me the ball at the death, mate.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I know it was like we actually we spent all our petrol trying to win it before the last over, and it was almost like, well, look, we're buggered now, Burnsy. You may as well have a go. And Mark Elam smacked one straight to Dutchy mid-wicket. It was an amazing day. Like to get 340 and, mate, we were never winning. Even with 340 on the board, we were behind the whole game, and then we won at the end. So that was almost a tale of our, what was it, the old C&G or the NatWest? Yeah. Some of my fondest memories, mate, of England were from some of those home quarters and semis, which we just had we had a wonderful record in winning the toss or whatever we had to do to get a home final, but because we didn't play many of them away, and a pretty good record of getting there. Unfortunately, that was another year where, 2002, we come across a pretty rampant Matthew Elliott, which almost didn't let us into the game.
No, that's right. I mean, we'd be wrong of us not to talk about the 2001 final, which you described as your greatest day of your cricketing life at the time in the press. And I'd probably ditto that as well. Fantastic occasion to come away with the trophy after a number of years.
Yeah, it was amazing, mate. Look, it was almost a perfect day. The sun was shining, which was important because I know that used to confuse things around the toss a bit at Lords, whether you batted or bowled first. And for me, I always wanted to bat first. To bat first and always be going okay. And then, for you and Noddy to just get us to a score which was, ultimately out of reach, but ultimately a good score into a great score. In those days, what was it, what did we get, 270?
270, I think, yeah.
Yeah, so to get 270 in those days, I mean, that was a big chase in one-day cricket. But once again, mate, their tempo, Leicester's tempo, they weren't far away for the duration of the innings, but they just kept losing. We kept getting wickets, which was the key. And, mate, I've jokingly said to someone I was talking the other day, if I'd had a second child, a second son, I'd have probably called him Keith, just in memory of your efforts that day because, mate, I'm sure you did say it's a day you never forget. Well, you should never because it was just, it was your day, mate. And, the county should be very proud of you and the team that day because it was a very fond memory. It remains my fondest cricket memory, no doubt about it. To lift a trophy as an overseas captain at the home of cricket, it's one of the few times in my life, mate, where I was like a giddy schoolchild. I had no idea what I've looked back over the presentation speech, and it's almost embarrassing to think that's you like that. I mean, it was a really proud moment.
Yeah, the club showed it on the website the other day, and the memories that it brought back, and the feedback from people that obviously much younger than us two that hadn't seen it, was incredible, and it's still a major day in the Somerset sort of history books, if you like, and it was a long time coming.
Well, and to think, I actually did see a bit of that. I watched it on Twitter where you'd get an update every 5 minutes or so, until I went to bed. But it was it brought back a lot of memories, because it's there's certain things of every game that you just forget, like you just don't remember some of the emotion around the game. I mean, I'd forgotten the Afridi catch, the ball that went 5 miles in the air. I'd forgotten poor old Scott Boswell's over, which was quite infamous in the end. The poor bugger had the tournament of his life, and then had the day that sadly he'll probably never forget for the wrong reason. So it was that classic final that I think defined and made careers, and unfortunately in Bossie's case it probably defined it the wrong way, but it was a fantastic day. Really, really enjoyed it.
You're right. They were right up with it all the way through run rate, and had some really solid players coming in at 6, 7, 8, 9 that could still damage us.
Well, I reckon Jimmy Ormond hit Blackie for 6 into the pavilion. At that stage, I remember thinking, Christ, hang on, we're not quite there. But and watching the most vivid memory I've got, is quite funny, it's quite strange really, was just as Jonesy was running in for the last ball. I remember this really strong feeling of, hit it to me, hit it to me, hit it to me. You just wanted to catch it and get the game done. So it was, and then fortunately, obviously, I think it was Bozzy again when I had a big slog at one and missed it.
It was the last one, yeah.
Yeah, so no, it was, they were very fond memories. I mean, to look at that, even whenever it was a few weeks ago, was, it still makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up, because I had 3 goes at it at Lords. We only won 1, and I had 3 goes at playing 4-day finals here in Tassie, and lost every one. So, 6 major finals I played in during my domestic career. I only won 1, and that was it. So, and to do it, as I said, to do it at Lords, to do it after messing it up 2 years earlier, to break a long drought, to do it with a team that we'd had together for 3 or 4 or 2 or 3 years, and built pretty well together to try and get that outcome. And I think what's underestimated, Pass, in that competition, we've had such a good run at it, but the wonderful format, like to have every game as a final, basically, to be playing elimination all the way through, shouldn't be underestimated either. Like, we spoke a couple of those semis and quarters, but there were some amazing games through all those games.
Yeah, I think, we obviously going back, having had the 99 disappointment, but obviously we'd had a couple of signings as well. Richard Johnson, Keith Dutchy and Blackwell had joined us over those 2 years in between as well, which was obviously a big asset to us as well.
Yeah, enormous. 3 exceptional cricketers. And all of them had good moments in all those games. Blackie had a massive game. I reckon that Kent game you're talking about, he got us into a space where, we were probably heading for about a nudge over 300, and he got us to 340. So, Jono's efforts, I remember Jono's efforts in the losing final against Yorkshire, where I think he was probably the only bowler who took a wicket, but he got 3 or 4, bowled his heart out. And Dutchy was just, mate, you spoke of his, him and Noddy's effort against Warwickshire. I reckon it was you and him in 2002, wasn't it, that actually had a partnership? Was it against Warwickshire as well, or Hampshire, or someone where, it was another key moment in the game where we weren't winning, and then suddenly we won. Three terrific cricketers. And ironically, we had, I reckon our 2 big players were obviously Trez and Cads, who I reckon all had reasonably modest finals through all those games. So, effectively, you turn up for those games thinking, oh, Jesus, hope Trez, if he comes off today, we'll win easy. When he doesn't, everyone steps up and, But to see those guys as well, who played a fair bit of international cricket, to get just as excited about winning a trophy for their county, I think just makes everyone else, that more excited as well.
Yeah, I mean, in 2002, arguably, we probably played a little bit better on a sticky wicket against the Yorkies to get nearly 260, I think. But I think Vardy took Marcus a great catch at short extra just as Marcus was starting to go, I think.
Yeah, good memory. Yeah, and I think you're right. Wasn't renowned for pouching him either, Vardy, from memory. Or maybe that was just in Australia he had a few issues. But, that's well done. You've got a good memory, Pass. You've unless you've done your research.
No, it's all in the mind. It's all upstairs, mate. Wasn't that those Elliott's only game, Matthew Elliott or something, in the competition? Didn't he come and replace Lehman?
I don't know, but I wish he wasn't.
Wish he wasn't there. That's right.
No, he's a serious player, Matty. He, that's no secret there. He had a big Ashes tour around that time as well in England, but he's, mate, He's that's as well as I've ever seen him play, by the way. He started as a terrific long-form player, red ball player, and as his career matured, became a very, very good short-form player as well. And that day, mate, that was masterful. That was as good as Lehman could ever play. So if he came in to replace Buff, he did an amazing job. He just played out of his skin.
Definitely. It'd be wrong of us just to talk about the 1 days, though, Coxie. Obviously, the 4 days we runner-up in 2001, I think, which has been copied an awful lot of times since, as you'd have seen from afar.
I have seen, yeah.
Just run through a few of the young players you saw coming through at the time, and I'll throw a couple of names at you: Matt Wood, Matt Bullbeck. Obviously, you played in James Hildreth's first game as well. Just a few local lads that have done really well since. Obviously, Bully's injury was a disappointment.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Bully could have been anything, mate. He was, and I remember some of the conversations we had when he was struggling with his back. I mean, it was a really emotional time for Bully. His best was very, very good. It was sad. There's no other way to do that. I mean, sport doesn't deliver many fairy tales. Sadly, that wasn't one. Woody was a talented player. It didn't look like he was going to score runs all that often, but just had an exquisite timing about him. A bit like, he was a Devon lad, wasn't he, Woody? He was a bit like
Lathwell,
the other king from parts, Lathers, who had that same sort of hand, ability just to make the ball get to the fence fast. And good lad to have around your team. Hildy's gone on to bigger and better things, hasn't he? The superstar.
He's probably the only one still going, I guess, from your time with us.
I don't know what he is now. I imagine he's not got any more anxious. I mean, he certainly was one of the calmest kids I ever played with. I mean, I can actually remember, I don't know if it was his first game, but it was very, very early against Durham.
Yeah, that was his debut.
Was it? Yeah, and Shoaib
played,
was playing, yeah. And I was batting with him. And I remember Shoaib was running in basically off the Taunton fence and bowling, quick-ish, but not at his absolute quickest. And in the end, I was on strike and he put everyone on the fence because Hildy came in to bat, everyone on the fence. And I was thinking, okay, what do we do here? So, we'll take one and see what happens. First ball he bowled at Hildy was a bouncer, fast, right on the button. And I reckon Hildy just bunted it over bat pad. So not out, obviously, and it landed safely. But Shoaib sort of looked down the wicket and smiled and said something. And all he got from Hildy was, what? Next ball, or very soon afterwards, he got a pull away in front of square off Shoaib, which I don't know, that's playing in the team with him. I'd never really seen much of Hildy other than, pick this kid and let's give him a go. And it just looks like, from that moment on, he's had an amazing career. It's been great to follow. There's obviously been some tragedy and trauma with some of the, you talk about how many times they finished second over the past little while. Some of the torment where they've been winning, and I can't remember the exact occasions, but where they've been winning, for 24 hours and come back the next day and they lose. And there was another one, wasn't there, where Knots overtook them an hour later or something. And there's just
You could write a book about it. So many close calls coming to the end of the season. But fingers crossed they'll get there soon.
Well, they certainly seem to have a good squad together. But yeah, I mean, I spoke, certainly fondly past of 2001, but coming second in the championship that year was it that year we came second, 2001?
Yeah.
That was because I remember Yorkshire won it easily, and I reckon they cleared out pretty early. So they were probably winners from, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I reckon they were winners with about a month to play. So we're effectively the best of the rest, which, no one likes to come second, but it was I always said in those days, obviously they've made Taunton spin a bit after our time. I used to always say to win at Taunton in those days just used to take so much more effort than winning in other grounds. Like we used to bowl probably another 50 overs than other teams to try and get a win at Taunton, just because it was such a good cricket wicket. And I reckon ultimately that cost us. I reckon ultimately the amount of effort you had to put in to trying to get a win or even a draw at Taunton, most games went 4 days, was a really tough way to win the championship. So, to make it spin and to get some quality spin with Bess and Leachy and coming in, I reckon that's been a great formula. So hopefully it pays.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right, and they've in a way found a way to win games at Taunton by batting first, getting big scores, and letting the spinners do the work.
Yeah, and just learn how to play spin, I suppose, better than some teams here have done it. Some teams here have sort of had, in Australia, we used to go to the Gabba year after year, and the formula up there was to juice it up and to play on really tough green bouncy wickets that got sort of quicker as the game went on, and they had a terrifically talented team, but their batting lineup as well. You just go out and play quite aggressively and get whatever they could, knowing their bowlers could defend it. So it was sort of a similar recipe, I suppose, that teams tried to figure out forever how to get wins at the Gabba, but it led to a real era of success for Queensland in our competition too. So yeah, smart, get used to conditions and just playing better than anyone else.
I mean, I guess we were lucky. We had a lot of caddy over that sort of time, and be wrong not to mention what a special bowler he was for years and years and years for us.
Oh mate, in simple terms, pass. When caddy played, we won in those days, and I just never forget. I mean, I just think he was just such a misunderstood character, Cads, and I early doors could not understand why he wasn't playing more for England. When I first arrived at Taunton, mate, I inherited, remember that little room that used to be there? It was like the captain and coach's room or whatever. It was a little part of, which I found really bizarre coming from our system. But I remember I walked in there day one or day two of training, and there was this big metal locker in there, and I must have, typical Australian, probably whinged about lack of space or something, and went out for a bat, came back, and here's my prime fast bowler, both arms around this big bloody metal cabinet, sort of moving it out of the room. It was like, hey, come on, I need you for other stuff. There's got to be someone else around here who can get rid of that. But no, look, mate, he was a serious fast bowler. I've never come across too many blokes who could be none for 50 off 8 overs and be 5 for 60 off 12. When he hit a gear, he was just very, very hard to play. And simply, mate, how he didn't play more for England during that period, I don't know. Fortunately, he did have that little patch in his career where he did play, him and Goffey sort of led the attack for a period of time, which thankfully he had his international moment. I reckon a great fast bowler, and I reckon an underrated teammate. He rated his own ability. He knew that if he was bowling, he was a better chance to be sitting down as soon as possible, and that was pure motivation. And I reckon the amount of humour he gave us along the way past underrated as well. Like the perfect opportunity to take the tat him in for whatever he was doing, and he used to take the tat himself without even knowing. Great value to have in our room and in our team.
Yeah, very special bloke, and he would have probably built you another rack of shelves as well if you wanted him in that little room.
Just probably had a rack in the back of his car or something. He could have erected in no time. Yeah, no.
He's still the go-to man if you need anything done in your house, I can assure you. Well, we're running out of time, mate. It's been absolutely brilliant to catch up. Hopefully the cricket club could use a bit of this, and it'd be great for the members to see how things are, mate, and see you looking so well. And we wish you all the best for the remainder of lockdown. Your new career in the different sports of what do you used to call it, egg-shaped balls or something?
We call it footy over here, mate. But yeah, no, great to see you too, mate. And yeah, look, great to chat, great to relive some past memories. But look, I just hope everyone's safe and well. These are extraordinary times, and hopefully we get cricket back as soon as possible. I'm sure there's a lot of people missing it.